maybe just very briefly, I'll recap on those first three. So at the core of any R&D, research and development grant funding application, is innovation and commercial potential. So on the innovation side, you need to show a project that is high risk. And on the commercial side, you need to show an opportunity that has good potential. So the route to market, maybe how you're going to scale, charge for, or how you're going to generate income, make the business sustainable in the medium term after the funding. The only thing I would add on the innovation side is the funder needs to see that high risk, that novel approach in the concept, but that needs to be balanced with an approach to delivering that product, process, or service that is believable. So on the one hand, it's high risk, and on the other hand, it's somehow low risk. So you need to provide a good project plan and make that detailed to show that you have thought about what risks there are and how you're managing them, where are the go, no-go decisions, how will you take them, some kind of responsibility for the risks within the project will show that you've thought it through, even though you're unsure of whether it will work by nature of it being research and development. And then finally on the team, just to recap then, if you are to put effort into any area of the application, I would recommend team. High score on team means generally a much higher chance of success. So the second group of tips then, the ideal makeup of an R&D grant application would be that innovation-led SME, that novel idea, the high risk piece, and you would normally have to have that entity in order to be eligible to apply. They would normally lead the project. Certainly with Innovate UK, we have noticed a significant increase in your chance of success if you have at least one and maybe even 2 or 3 partners with you on the project. So the project could be anything from 12 to 36 months, well, even 6 to 36 months actually. And we would recommend finding an academic partner, a university that can either support with the high risk research element and bring their knowledge and expertise, or could look at overcoming barriers to adoption, the commercial stage, or could look at verifying the results of the project. So have we done what we set out to do? Does the technology work as we hoped? Is the testing robust? Is the technology secure? It's increasingly important subject, that security element, protection of personal data, and so on. So a university will be an excellent partner to add a third party, a respected voice to your bid. They generally they generally will be prepared for Innovate applications. They will probably have someone who understands the process from the university's point of view. They have to complete a slightly separate, shorter application. They have to work out their own costs because it's calculated differently to what you would do for a business or a not-for-profit. They also receive 100% of the costs that they specify. So it's attractive for them, and they potentially would put the head of department, a professor on the project for 20-30% of their time, and then maybe a research student or two that they can recruit and dedicate to the project for the duration. I know that last time on the session we had a couple of local authorities and an educational charity or two, community groups. Partnering is your route into Innovate UK funding. You could count yourself as an industry partner. So if you have the capability of taking this novel technology that's being developed and supporting its deployment, supporting its rollout, helping with training, dissemination, and adding value to the project that way, then that's really your route into Innovate UK funding. So if you can team up with or spin out an SME, then maybe you also have that link to an academic research partner, a university, and you can help shape that that consortium, if you like, bidding.
Alex, you mentioned that the identifying a university institution perhaps from a spin-out SME. Are there other ways of finding sort of relevant academic partners for bids?
Yes, so you should not be afraid to approach universities directly if you know one that has a specialism in your area. But there is an organization called the Knowledge Transfer Network, KTN, which is part of Innovate UK or somehow related. And they have that network of contacts across academia and industry and can help put you in touch with potential partners. And Innovate UK also run briefing events, and at those events there's quite often people in the room looking for partners. So they're two good routes, yeah, worth exploring.
Thank you.
Okay, so I should have said at the beginning, if you have questions, please feel free to interrupt. It's always good.
Alex, I don't know if you guys can hear me or?
We can.
Yeah, I'd also say that just cultivating a direct relationship with Innovate UK and KTN is highly valuable. Mm-hmm. So quite apart from the introductions they can make, if you get to know them and you're on their radar, they will reach out and tap you if they think there's a grant coming up that you should be looking at, or a briefing that you should be going to in our experience. So the direct relationship with the funding agencies and the support agencies around it, it's massively valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're more front-facing, Innovate UK, than quite a few other funding bodies out there. They will sit and discuss your project and give you some feedback on a concept note. It can definitely help. I would agree with that. Thanks, Nick. So tip 5 then, value for money. You need to remember that this is public money, and the assessors need to see that them awarding you this grant, which could be, 300,000, 500,000, up to £2 million for one project, represents good value for money. So they can say that you're making every effort as a partnership or an entity to deliver good value for money, good return on investment. So a couple of tips of how to demonstrate that. Definitely calculate a return on investment. So work out, broadly speaking, the kind of returns that you're expecting after the R&D project has been funded and finished over the next 3 to 5 years, and calculate a return on investment based on the grant that has been awarded as a percentage figure, and present that in the application, and justify the calculations and the revenue generation figures that you've that you've put in, maybe in an appendix. That's a good start. Also look at how many people you think you would employ, and particularly if they're high-skilled people, you can look at 3 to 5 years out. That will help justify value for money. I would suggest wherever possible recruiting rather than subcontracting. So, for example, in a software project, if you are subcontracting, then really you would be expecting to pay £750 a day for the kind of developers you need. Whereas if you are employing people, that cost can come right down to, I don't know, £200 a day for that kind of similar skill set. So again, by saying to the funder that you can recruit rather than subcontract, you're saving a significant amount of public money. So that is definitely worth considering. It also reflects back on the partnering piece. So potentially without the grant, you couldn't afford to the time or the cost of partnering with a research university or an industry partner. So the public funding will add value by enabling you to bring that consortium together and improving your chance of commercial success. Again, a good point to make with on value for money. Any questions or thoughts on that one? Things might occur as I carry on talking. So I think for this risk assessment tip, I broadly covered it earlier. It's that balance between a high risk project in terms of the concept and bringing that
Can others hear Alex, or has he dropped off?
He's dropped off for me.
Yeah, he's dropped off for me as well.
Yeah, it's frozen. Okay, hopefully he will call back in. I'm sure he'll realise. So as soon as he's back in, I will let him back. Yeah, I think he's trying to dial back in, I think.
you can pick a particular area of the business or the technology or the solution and separate it and say, this in itself could be grant fundable, or you could look at grants that support, the whole business model. So be strategic, look at different funding options, different calls, make a plan over a few years. As Nick mentioned, it can take 12 to 24 months to deliver one grant, but you can apply for the next one partway through working on a current one if you have the capacity. So what I would suggest is treat the grant funder like you would an equity funder. So once you've got your materials developed for your grant application, use it multiple times, reuse it, a bit like you would with a business plan or a pitch deck. Go to multiple investors, don't just sit and wait on one.
Alex,
And
have
yeah,
you moved your screen forward? It might just be me, but I'm still showing the tips for success too. Might just be my screen though.
mine shows number 3.
Okay. If anyone else, it's probably just my screen. Maybe it's frozen. Put on the chat if anyone else got the problem.
So finally, persistence. It's really competitive to try and get hold of this funding. Success rates are anywhere from kind of 5 to 15%. Like I say, the money is attractive. There's no equity to give away. There's no loan to repay. So it's as close as you're going to get to free money. It puts you in control of the business, apart from, you know, reporting back and delivering on the project plan that you specified in the application. So it means that you need to be persistent. You need to take your feedback from the first application that isn't successful and go again. You need to engage someone who understands the process maybe once or twice to get you on your way. You need to go to those briefing meetings or watch those webinars or go through the pain of getting that partner on board that's going to make the difference to get the funding. You need to improve what you're writing in those 400 words in each answer. There's no room for wasted space. It is time consuming, but if you're persistent, then it is entirely possible to get that funding.
Alex, could you just stop sharing and then reshare, because everyone's got the same issue. They can only see the tips for success number 2. So if you stop and then reshare. Yeah, that's good.
It was worth the wait, everyone. So yeah, I think we've covered them now, really. So be careful how you're selecting your grants. Make sure the business leads the selection process rather than being tempted by the grant. Think of grant funding as supporting your business funding strategy over a number of years, not just a one-off grant. And then be persistent. Take the feedback that you've got, speak to people who have been successful in the past, go the extra mile to get that partner, attend some events. Most organizations on their first attempt won't get the funding, so you're not alone in that respect. Has that moved on to resources now, Cara? Can you see that?
Yes, it has. Yes, yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. So just very briefly, to wrap up from our side, there's a few free resources available on our website. So I mentioned the ebook that's there and available to download. We've put together a guide on how to create what we call a venture synopsis, which would essentially be a 2-page high-level summary of your company, the problem that you're trying to solve, the proposed solution, the potential impact of that solution. It's a really good way of sharing a project concept with either someone like Innovate UK or a university partner or an industry partner, or even within your own team, so that they can quickly understand what you're doing and what you're after, and they could share that as well. And then we've got a how to prepare for EU grants guide. So sometimes it can be a bit daunting, the whole EU grant process. And that guide just says, look, here are 7 easy ways to lay the groundwork, so that maybe from January 21, there's a new program of EU grants. So maybe it can help you access some of that funding if indeed the UK wish to remain part of that funding program. So yeah, they're all available and free on the website. So that is me done really with the material that I have to present, but I'm very happy to answer questions.